Iran has submitted a new peace proposal to the United States through Pakistani mediators, but President Trump is holding firm on the naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, with 23 days of conflict now costing the Pentagon an estimated $25 billion, inflation in America spiking to 3.6%, and Britain's food supply chain described by The Telegraph as genuinely broken. Meanwhile, back home, Nigel Farage is demanding the Iranian embassy in London be shut down after it reportedly called on Iranian citizens in Britain to sacrifice their lives for the regime. The stakes couldn't be higher, militarily, economically, and now, right here on our own streets. Joining me now are Marcus Webb, our defense and security analyst, and Sophia Reeves, our economics and markets editor. Marcus, let me start with you. Is this Iranian peace proposal a genuine olive branch, or is Tehran simply doing what it always does and playing for time?
Thanks, Emma. Let me be blunt. This is a stalling tactic, full stop. The Iranians have sat at more negotiating tables than I've had hot dinners, and every single time, the purpose has been to buy time, relieve pressure, and then resume whatever activity the talks were supposed to stop. The Pakistani mediation channel is interesting. It tells you Iran is isolated enough to need a third-party interlocutor, but it does not tell you Tehran is serious. What tells you Tehran is serious is when they agree to verifiable dismantlement of their nuclear infrastructure, and we are nowhere near that conversation. Trump is right to hold the blockade. The Strait of Hormuz is the pressure lever, and the moment you release it without a binding, verifiable agreement, you've handed Iran exactly what it wants. Douglas Murray has been saying for years that the West's fatal mistake with Iran is treating it as a rational state actor amenable to conventional diplomatic incentives. It is a revolutionary theocracy, and its calculus is entirely different from ours. And here's what nobody wants to say out loud. The longer this drags on, the greater the risk that Iran's nuclear scientists, the ones Senator Angus King is worried about, decide that the only way to prevent this happening again is to actually get the bomb.
But Marcus, isn't that precisely the argument against maintaining the blockade? If military pressure accelerates their nuclear program rather than dismantling it, hasn't Trump actually made the world less safe? And Sophia, I know you've been watching the economic data closely. The Economist is showing inflation at 3.6%. Total Energies is capping fuel prices in France. At what point does the economic pain become unsustainable?
Well, look, Marcus isn't wrong about the nuclear risk, but here's what I think he's missing. There's a breaking point in every economic confrontation, and the question isn't just whether Iran blinks first, it's whether Western consumers blink first. We're at 3.6% inflation in America. The Strait of Hormuz carries 21 million barrels of oil per day. Britain's food supply chain is fracturing because the disruption isn't just about fuel. It's about fertilizer inputs, shipping costs, the entire logistics infrastructure. Total Energies capping prices in France is a corporate band-aid on an arterial wound. If this continues for another 60 days, you're not looking at a 3.6% inflation index. You're looking at 5, potentially 6%. And at that point, the political calculus in Washington changes dramatically. The War Powers Resolution gives Congress a 60-day window, and I can already hear the Democratic caucus sharpening their knives. The economic pressure on ordinary Americans becomes the political pressure on Trump, and that is absolutely what Tehran is counting on when they submit this proposal.
I hear what Sophia is saying, but with respect, that misses the point entirely. The economic pain is real, I'm not dismissing it, but the alternative is what exactly? We lift the blockade, Iran pockets the concession, and in 3 years we're dealing with a nuclear-armed regime that controls the Strait of Hormuz permanently. That's not a solution, that's a catastrophe in slow motion. Look, $25 billion is a lot of money. 100 Iranian drones and missiles a day is a lot of ordnance. But the cost of capitulating to economic pressure now is a world where Iran has the bomb and knows it worked. And while we're talking about costs, can we talk about what is happening in London? The Iranian embassy calling on citizens in Britain to sacrifice their lives for the regime? Farage is absolutely right. Close it. Expel the staff. That's not a cultural question. That's a national security emergency happening right now on British soil.
Here's what I want to know. We're 23 days in. The Pentagon is already at $25 billion, and the War Powers clock is ticking. Where does this actually end? Sophia, where do you see this going over the next 3 to 6 months?
The way I see this playing out, there are really two realistic near-term paths. Either this Iranian proposal contains something substantive enough for Trump to claim a win, genuine nuclear verification mechanisms, not the window dressing we got from the JCPOA, and you get a ceasefire that at least temporarily stabilizes oil markets. Or the talks collapse, the blockade holds, inflation climbs past 4%, and we hit that 60-day congressional wall around the same time the economic data gets genuinely ugly. If current trends continue, the political pressure on Trump from his own base, who are feeling this at the pump, becomes the variable that nobody is adequately pricing in right now.
Here's what concerns me most, and this is the scenario I genuinely lie awake about. The American Conservative has reported that despite everything we've spent, we failed to destroy Iran's weapons capacity. We burned through munitions. They still have their arsenal largely intact. That means Iran goes into these negotiations knowing it can absorb military punishment, reconstitute, and come back. And if Senator King's intelligence instincts are right about the nuclear scientists racing for the bomb, we could be looking at a situation where in 18 months, we're facing a nuclear-armed Iran that survived this confrontation and concluded the only deterrent that works is the one we spent 30 years trying to prevent. The risk isn't that this peace proposal fails. The risk is that it succeeds just enough to let Iran cross the nuclear threshold while the world exhales.
Marcus Webb and Sophia Reeves' extraordinary analysis, genuinely terrifying stakes. One thing is absolutely certain tonight. Somewhere in Tehran, someone is reading that inflation number and smiling.